Alright, to install the Retaliator Stage 2 kit, the first thing you need to do is remove all of the screws from your blaster. Next, open up your shell. You may need to use a small flathead screwdriver to pry it open if it sticks. I think this one will open just fine. There's a pin that holds the dart door, or the jam door in place, that likes to cause the shell to stick. Okay. Once you get your shell apart, set one half aside and remove your accessory tooth, because you don't want it shooting off and losing it. Okay, there we go. Okay, now remove all of the internals from your blaster. So this blaster has all of its stock internals with the locks and everything, but we are going to remove these locks. Okay, once you've done that, you can set all of this aside and start assembling the kit. To do that, the first thing you're going to want to do is pin the breech to the bolt sled with the included pin. Take care not to use anything like a hammer to try and install that pin, because you might damage the parts. You can take the metal trigger and use it to help you press the pin in. It's a tight fit. Alright, it just has to be flush. Don't worry about hammering it or pushing it all the way through to be even. And it's a tight fit. It rotates freely in the bolt sled, and the pin is actually being held in place by the slightly smaller hole in the breech. Next, take the small O-ring and slip it over the back of the breech. And take the large O-ring and install it over the plunger. Now you're going to need your stock plunger tube. And the grease packet. This one's already open, but when you get yours, there'll be a metal seal here. Simply take the cap, and there's a pointy end in there, and puncture that seal. So put a light coat of grease on the O-ring. You actually do not need much, because there's some grease inside of the stock plunger tube. And on the small O-ring on the breech. And slide the breech into the stock plunger tube. Yep. Do it slowly so the O-ring does not pinch. Alright, and install your stage 2 plunger tube. Again, making sure not to pinch the O-ring on this orange lip here. Okay, there you go. Just, you can see the O-ring through the opaque plastic, and make sure you can see the O-ring all the way around, and that it's not pinched. There you go. An optional step will be to take this lock off of your stock bolt sled and install it here, but I'm going to leave that lock out since it's really unnecessary for blaster operation. Alright, and now line up these holes in your bolt sled with these little tabs here on the slide. and these two pegs will go in this rail here. The Retaliator is a little bit tricky to close back up once you've taken off all of your internals, but if you line everything up just right, the shell should go together very smoothly. And also, be extra careful not to lose this spring. If your dart tooth spring gets partially pops out, you won't be able to load darts reliably. And I'm going to keep the trigger lock to prevent accidentally dry firing. And next, take your stage 2 trigger catch spring and press it over the tabs on the spring post on the trigger, and install the trigger. And it should be smooth. Double check that your trigger isn't catching anywhere. Press the plunger in. You'll notice here I am using the stock trigger catch because a metal catch is included with the stage 1 kit, not the stage 2. And be sure to press your trigger catch spring down all the way onto the trigger catch spring post. Okay, make sure everything's lined up. And close the shell. It may take a few tries to close the shell. The Retaliator is not as easy to put back together as the Recon. You can use the flathead screwdriver to press up on the trigger catch and helping it to line up. And it would appear the bolt sled is not sitting in its rails correctly. So what I'm going to do here is half prime and see if that holds everything in place a little more evenly. There we go. The shell is now closed and primed. Okay, at this point, this is the easiest point to reinstall your accessory tooth. Just split the shell slightly up at the top and slide it into place. And now, before putting in any of the screws, take your spring. If you ordered a stage 1 kit, you'll already have our aftermarket spring. If not, you can use the stock spring. This is an aftermarket spring. And be extra careful that the spring is not poking out of the shell at all, because that won't interfere with the prime. Your plunger rod should be able to slide through the hole at the back of the shell without touching the spring. Okay, there we go. Put the back cap back on. Put all of the screws back into the blaster, and then you can test fire. Before putting the screws in, it's generally not a good idea to dry fire these blasters with more powerful springs, but before putting in the screws, doing a single test fire is generally a good idea. It will save you having to remove all the screws again to fix anything. Alright, we're good to go. Thanks for watching.